Yep, it's me, and I'm just out in the woods. It's a beautiful day. A little on the chilly side, but yes, definitely a beautiful day. Yeah, so, anywho, yeah, I want to address a yet another young earther misconception, which is that somehow atheism and evolution and the Big Bang are all the same thing. They're not. They are not the same thing. Atheism is the idea that there are no gods. The Big Bang is a catchy term for the expanding universe model, which is our best explanation for the origins of the cosmos. And evolution is a biological process of imperfect genetic replication filtered through selective environmental pressures. These are three totally separate things that are not even related to each other. And so, yeah, young earthers really do need to figure this out. When they're attacking atheism by attacking the Big Bang, they're not attacking atheism. They're attacking observable reality about the universe, about the stars and the galaxies and the universe as a whole. When they try to attack evolution to attack atheism, they're also attacking observed biological reality, which has nothing to do with atheism. There could be 0 atheists in the whole world, and yet evolution would still be an observed and ongoing process among living organic beings. Nothing would change except that there are no atheists. And atheism does not depend on evolution, nor does it depend on the Big Bang. Atheism simply depends upon the complete and utter lack of testable evidence for the existence of the gods. That's it. That is it. That's it. Yeah, so, anywho, that is one very important creationist misconception, that somehow the Big Bang and evolution and atheism are all the same thing and somehow interdependent, which, again, they're not. Yeah. Hopefully, I've helped clear up some creationist misconceptions and helped creationists get a better understanding of exactly what they're dealing with when they're talking to atheists, when they're talking to biologists, and when they're talking to cosmologists. Because although there is considerable overlap, the three are not absolutely interchangeable. Thank you. Wow. Oh, and good morning. Anybody else noticing that no matter where I start, I always seem to end up here on the balcony? Anybody else notice that? I've noticed that. It's almost like I really like my balcony. Oh, yeah. So anyways, yesterday I was explaining the difference between atheism, evolution, and the expanding universe model, or the Big Bang as it's also called. And how these are
three separate things that are completely unrelated to each other and completely independent of each other. And it occurred to me that maybe, just maybe, I might need to go a little deeper into it and explain some finer detail, just to make sure that I am fully understood here. So, yeah, here I am on the balcony, explaining the difference between atheism, evolution, and the Big Bang. Yeah. David Hume was an atheist, and he expressed his rejection of the prevailing belief in the gods quite comfortably. He was a good man who lived a decent life. He was an academic, he was a scholar, and contrary to the Spurgeon sermon, which says that he died screaming, actual observers and eyewitnesses say that he died very calmly, almost between two thoughts. Yeah. He just seemed to go to sleep quietly. But Spurgeon also failed to understand that Hume lived before we had learned anything about evolution, before we had learned anything about the Big Bang. These were completely unknown concepts. Nobody had brought them up when David Hume lived and died. There was a vague understanding within the church that different strains of livestock and different strains of crop plants like wheat and barley and whatnot seemed to undergo changes from generation to generation, which had noticeable effects 100 generations down the line. So not within the lifetime of a single observer, but definitely within the lifetimes of 3 consecutive observers, who would then be able to collate their predecessors' notes and draw the conclusion that something had changed. These records existed in monasteries in Ireland, France, Scotland, Wales, Denmark, Switzerland, Austria, Spain. But they didn't exist in England because Henry VIII decided to burn down the monasteries. Yeah, because Henry was an asshole. And yes, I still support good Queen Catherine. 500 years later. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah, well, in any case, yeah. Aside from wishing Anne Boleyn to go back to her little French brothel, yeah, I'm also very sad that Henry burned the monasteries, because those monasteries did contain a lot of the evidence that could have been used by Darwin to present his model of evolution by sexual selection. Because the monks kept very meticulous breeding records. And in fact, it was Darwin's own pigeon breeding that led him to evolution by sexual selection. Pigeons and orchids. Yeah. And yes, Darwin remained a firm believer that there had to be a God somewhere. So he was never an atheist. He'd never achieved atheism. He lived his life believing that there was a God. So, yeah. Evolution, not atheism. Atheism, not evolution. But what about the Big Bang? Isn't that contingent on atheism and atheism contingent on the Big Bang? Well, again, no. Because Father Georges Lemaitre, notice that this man is a clergyman, a Christian clergyman specifically, is the guy who figured out the Big Bang. And it was the agnostic Albert Einstein who initially dismissed his model, but then went over his own calculations and realized that, yeah, Lemaitre was correct. But Lemaitre was a lifelong Christian, so, yeah, the Big Bang, the expanding universe, again, not atheism, not contingent on atheism, and atheism not contingent on the Big Bang. Separate and unrelated. An atheist can accept the steady state universe model. Come to think of it, an atheist can conceivably accept the existence of a universe farting unicorn. Yeah. Although I've never heard of an atheist who accepts such a nonsense position, but hypothetically, it's not a god. No. A universe farting unicorn. So yeah, these ideas are completely separate and independent. These are three completely separate categories that themselves do not overlap. Although many of the people who study them do have an overlapping interest. A cosmologist, that is someone who studies the universe, might have an interest in evolution. But it's peripheral, it's very small, and they might have arrived at atheism. But again, this has nothing to do with their study of the universe. A biologist, that is someone who studies biology, who would understand evolution because that's what he's studying, might have a peripheral interest in cosmology and may or may not be an atheist. But they're all unrelated. And of course, atheists don't need to have studied either evolution or the Big Bang. They don't need to know anything about biology or anything about cosmology. They just have to have arrived at the conclusion that there are no gods. Three separate and unrelated things, which are not interchangeable, and which young Earth creationists need to understand are not interchangeable. Oh, well. Anywho, if you want to understand more, I suggest you read some books on the topics. Plural. Yes. Oh, pardon me. Read some books on the topics. Understand the topics. And then you won't be making these huge glaring mistakes anymore. And you won't look so foolish. And maybe you'll arrive at a greater understanding of how the universe actually works. Yeah. Oh, by the way, evolutionary biologist and paleontologist Mary Schweitzer is still a devout Christian, and she accepts an ancient Earth within an ancient universe, and she accepts evolution. Mary Schweitzer, the lady responsible for the, quote, T-Rex soft tissues discovery. Yeah, her. You should read what she actually wrote. not what Ray Comfort and Ken Ham and Kent Hovind and other evangelicals have written about her. Read her own words. She is well published. Yeah. Go ahead. Anyways, I got stuff I gotta do. Take care, be well. Love yous all.